we're glad you're here with us today. And we're going to be talking about the topics that are listed in this round of SBIR STTR application, and go over how to find your right topic. So we'll get to it. Just a quick introduction to why we're hosting these events. We work with the Department of Energy as what they call a power connector. We're one of 16 in the US that are kind of assigned different tasks and given opportunities to work with applicants that are seeking funding in different areas. We have been working particularly in the solar industry for the last 3 to 4 years, and have been able to help significantly with the SBIR proposals as well as with the solar prize. So if you have any questions or would like to learn more about other funding opportunities, don't hesitate to reach out. We'd be happy to connect you to other things that are going on within the Department of Energy. On this particular program, we're working with 4 other power connectors, and you'll hopefully, as you came across this event, you may have come across events or activities by these other power connectors. Some of us are doing different things like just bringing awareness and outreach, and some are hosting events and office hours. But just to give a quick shout out to all of those power connectors, we have the Clean Energy Business Network, the Arrowhead Center, the ADL, EFN, and as well as ourselves. And I'm going to now turn it over to Sonia Von Hout, who is our subject matter expert with UACI. She's been working with us for a few years, and she's a seasoned expert on SBIRs and STTRs, and has been supporting this program the last couple of years with us. And she's going to be our speaker today. So I'll turn it over to you now, Sonia, and take it over.
Thank you, Amanda. Hi, everyone. How are you guys doing today? Thank you for having me here. And I'm not going to spend much time other than talking about me, other than I have been doing SBIR STTRs for a long time. And my background is a systems engineer. And so I apply a lot of that process-oriented thought into how we coach and mentor our customers. And that's kind of what we do at the UACI as well. So if you want me to, are you going to go to the next slide then for me? Okay, so next slide. So as part of today's objectives is last week, you learned a little bit about the SBIR program and what the DOE is focusing on. Today, we're going to do a little bit more drilling down into what topics look like and what are the current topics that the DOE release to solicitation has, and how to find some opportunities as it relates to these type of areas for water and wind energy. Next. So just a few pages on what the SBIR program's about. It started around 1982. It's become an almost $4 billion program funding small technology companies, and it's early stage non-diluted. So you probably already know that, and that's why you're here. And it likes to fund early stage high risk innovation areas. Primary focus is to stimulate the economy, and in particular also the economically disadvantaged and the women-owned small businesses. And that doesn't mean that other businesses can't apply, but that was the original focus, and it continues to be the focus of the SBIR STTR program. And basically to give the opportunity for the private sector to commercialize technologies and benefit the federal government. Next. So with regards to the SBIR basics, there's 2 types of programs. There's the Small Business Innovation Research, and then there's the Small Business Technology Transfer, or STTR. With the major difference is that the SBIR does not require that you partner with a nonprofit research institution. And there's a lot more money for SBIR than there is in STTR. So you'll notice that as we move forward in the differences between the two. And for the most part, with the exception, I believe, of the NSF, When you do an STTR, your principal investigator can be through the research institution. Next. And the other major difference between SBIR and STTR is whether it's a grant or a contract. And when you're looking at these two options, the agencies will differ. There's just a couple that will do both grants and contracts. But the biggest difference between the two is that you have a lot more flexibility in a grant to define what the purpose is, who your customer is, what your innovation is, what the product or service is. Whereas in a contract, such as like a DoD or an Army or on Air Force or possibly Navy one, NASA as well, they'll come and tell you specifically what they want. So it becomes a contract where you will have to check the box that you meet all those requirements that they're asking for. Next slide. And here is the summary of the different agencies and whether they do contracts or grants or both. So you'll notice that the HHS or NIH, they do both contracts and grants, and their solicitations come out at different times. And then the Department of Education does also contracts and grants. Next. And here's a little bit more granularity. Like I mentioned, you're going to have more flexibility with the grants to define what you're doing. You will have the principal investigator has more freedom defining the scope of the work. And like I mentioned before, the contracts tell you specifically what they want, and there's less flexibility. Next. This slide is showing you the budgets for the year 2022. I got this information last year at the Tech Connect, and I summarized it into a pie chart. And so what I wanted to notice here is for you to notice that the Department of Defense is the biggest agency using the SBIR STTR program. Then it's followed by the Health and Human Services and NIH. And then the third one is the DOE. So keep that in mind when you're going after grants or contracts. Knowing this information, there's probably going to be a lot more topics or opportunities for you based on your technology on these 3 or 4 different agencies. So you have to be watching like a hawk when these solicitations come out. And one other thing that has come out, many of you probably already know that the SBIR STTR program was reauthorized again for a few more years, and several changes were made. And one of them is to have the agencies have something like an open topic, like the Air Force initiated that a few years ago. And an open topic will allow you to define similar to what grants were attempting to do, but here you get to define your own basic contract in the case of the DoD. And there's going to be one open topic within the areas that this program offers through the DOE and as a power connector, and how we can help you. Next slide. This is just the current release to schedule. And what is important to know is the topics have been issued. There's been webinars. So I went through the webinars for these particular topics that we're going to focus on today. So a lot of what I'm going to say is a repeat of what you already heard on those webinars with regards to the specifics of the topics. So we're going to go more here into what you probably would need to do to be responsive to those topics versus what the solicitation is actually just telling you. but please do listen to those topics, because there was a couple of nuggets here and there that they would tell you, but not too much more. But I want you to listen to them for yourself if you're going after any DOE topics, just because it is part of your responsibility to do that. The funding opportunity announcement will come out in December 16th, and you have to read it. Read every detail, because the fact that there was an FOA last time for release 1 or for release 2 does not mean it's going to be the same instructions. Sometimes there's changes, and since I haven't seen it, I can't tell you what they are, but I usually have to reread it and sometimes make changes to my own templates when I'm helping clients, because solicitations do change. The next thing that will be important after knowing what topics there is and what the funding opportunity announcement says is that there's going to be letters of intent due. You cannot submit an application for the DOE SBIR STTR program without having submitted a letter of intent. And we will discuss that in our next webinar. I believe it's next week, right, Amanda?
Yes,
so I won't go into next week. Okay, so I won't go into that, but I will be presenting on that. They will tell you if your application is going to be non-responsive, but if it is responsive, you will not hear from them. So, so no news is good news in this case. Applications are due on the 21st before midnight, and if you're late, you're late. No opportunity to submit a late application. And then they'll tell you around May 15th, but those dates are subject to change. So typically it will be about May something, maybe into June. But they keep you a little posted there if they're going to be behind. Next slide. This is a very general, high-level process. Specifically, I'm discussing DOE, and so you'll notice that it starts, this is kind of in time frame from the time the topics come out, the FOA is released, when you submit your letter of intent, when the applications are due. They're going to take about 3 months to review them. And then if they like what you submitted, they're going to come back to you, and then they're going to quote unquote negotiate. That doesn't mean they're going to negotiate how much you submitted your budget for, or what the content of what you're going to do or scope. What they're going to do is do their due diligence. Do you have all your quotes in hand? Do you know what you're doing? Can you reiterate possibly who your team is? Any potential red flag reviewers found on your proposal is what they're going to be asking you to re-specify or clarify. And then if they like your responses, they issue you a contract or a grant or a cooperative agreement. And then you have for phase 1 about 6 to 12 months. The phase 2 is similar process, just slightly different time periods maybe. And of course, we know that there's going to be more money involved. Right now, most of the topics we're going to be discussing today, or all of them, are going to be for phase 1 around 200,000, and they've increased the phase 2 awards to about $1.1 million in up to 24 months. Next slide. Okay, so as you probably know, if you read the topics and you've done your homework about the DOE, is they have a mission and they have program offices. Today, being a power connector, we're working primarily looking at the Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy Program Office, or the EERE. And what I've done here in this slide is kind of color-coded for you the different goals as they relate to the solicitation and the topics. So the highlighted ones with an asterisk are those program offices that have topics on the release to solicitation. Okay, and for today, we're going to be focusing on the EERE topics, which are going to be the water and wind energy. And so keep that in mind as we go forward. But that doesn't mean that your company cannot go or doesn't have technologies that could submit to the other topics in this solicitation. But today we're going to be focusing on green EERE. Next slide. So this again is another breakdown of the different program offices and based on the mission and the types of topics. And I've circled that we're going to be doing solar, water, and I apologize, we're doing wind as well. Correct, Amanda? Yeah.
No, you are correct. Just the solar and water. Those are what, yeah, okay. We're specifically, working on with those offices. Yeah. But again, if you have questions regarding other topics, we're happy to answer questions and get you to the right place if you're pursuing a topic in those areas.
Yeah, and so the topics today will be from 14 to 17, I believe. So they fall under the topics 10 through 21 that are submitted as part of the EERE. So next slide. This just outlined what the current solicitation looks like. And typically the topics are coming out about a month before the funding opportunity announcement or FOA. They do the webinars where I strongly recommend you listen to them and download the slides. And also they give you an email so that you can reach out. In some cases, they give you a generic email, so it goes to someone who will route it to the right subject matter experts. And sometimes they give you the name of the subject matter expert for a particular topic. So keep that in mind when you do reach out. But if you do have questions, I highly recommend you reach out. Okay, next slide. So the topics are created by the program managers based on the R&D areas that are interest to DOE's mission. And you'll notice from year to year, there is a lot of similarity, but there are subtle differences and sometimes big differences. So because a topic came out on one of the solicitations, it does not mean it'll come out again. But sometimes it does, many times it does, but just don't rely on it if you don't win an award in a particular solicitation window. But be aware that sometimes you do have the opportunity to resubmit to something essentially about the same. And do take advantage of asking questions to the program managers listed for clarifications and to see if your topic has a good fit your technology or innovation is a good fit. Next slide. So DOE are mission-focused specific topics. You're going to see that in some cases, especially with some of the topics we're going to be looking at today, there are specific requirements that you would have to meet with your technology that as part of your proposal, you're going to have to show that you're meeting them and how your approach is going to verify that you're going to meet them. And so keep that in mind. And we already discussed that they recorded the slides. Okay, for a topic example, and this is a very old radiation detection materials. It doesn't apply for this, but what I like about it is that one that could fit in a page without me having to cut and paste and create a new topic for today. But what I want to show you today is what a typical topic looks like and what are the areas in that topic. So you see that it will have a topic number and a title. And in all the topics, there's going to be at least one subtopic. It's going to be A, B, C, D, E. If there's only one, it will say A. If there's more, it'll start with A. And so keep in mind the topic and the subtopic you're going to be responding to, because you're going to have to use that in your letter of intent and in your grant application. And the header right underneath the topic title will tell you how much is going to be the maximum funding for that particular topic for both phase 1 and phase 2, and if it's only SBIR, STTR, or both. And in some cases now, it also has whether it's going to be a fast track topic or not for either SBIR or STTR. And then it has a little summary. Then it goes into the subtopics, and then it will list who to reach if you have any questions. In this particular, it has a specific person with their email address. And in some cases, it will just say wind@doe.gov, for instance. And sometimes they have another subtopic, which if you don't fit in any of the other topics, A through E, for instance, and there's an F other, that's where it's very important to reach out to the person or the email listed there to see if you fit under the other category. And then I highlight in red references. References are really important. Do your homework. They're there for a reason. Sometimes it's to give you background information about the reasons why this topic is important. Sometimes it'll tell you information about the requirements of the topic. Sometimes even it might lead you to the state of the art and what you're competing against, or, potential competitors that they funded in the past. So these references are very important. So, excuse me, I recommend you take the time to go and read them and find out why they are important to that topic or the subtopics. Next slide. Okay. Any questions so far? Because I'm going pretty fast. No? Okay. The technology transfer opportunity is when the DOE or national lab has a technology or their own innovation or IP that they want to partner with someone. So if you have capabilities or these TTOs fit into your company's strategy, it might be opportunistic to contact the DOE and find out if your capabilities are a good match for these technology transfer opportunities and get their blessing for the approach you have in place, possibly, and submit a proposal. So I do not believe that any of the topics this release that we're going to be looking at have TTO opportunity, but I want you to know that this exists because you might be applying for other topics outside of the ones we'll discuss that do have a technology transfer opportunity. So that's why I have this here. Next slide. Okay, so on this particular one, there's a lot of focus on decarbonization and how to reduce the cost of energy and across many sectors. So keep in mind how there is a fit for any of this when you are writing your proposal. Next slide. Okay, so what we're going to be focusing are on these, and I guess, Amanda, I put in the water here, but if it's not needed, then you can ignore it. But I guess you get a freebie from me today on water technologies. So it will just be a couple of slides, so or we can skip if nobody's interested. But
No, we should definitely go over water and solar. And if we have time, you can happy to go over wind energy.
Okay, so I'm getting
Yeah.
mistaken. My W's are getting mistaken
That's
today.
okay.
So I need probably more coffee. But any case, so 14, 15, and 16. And note that the 16 is only STTR. So you'll need to partner with a research institution for that one. And the other thing, and I listened to the proposals. If one of you got the reason for this, please do let me know. I have no idea why they started the C56 dash in front of the topics. And so I missed that one, but this is the new numbering. So if anybody knows, please let me know or shout out now or put it on the chat. But it's kind of a little bit annoying, but oh well, it's part of changing. So it's C56, 14, 15, 16. So we discussed a little bit about the fact that there's going to be requirements that you're going to have to meet. And these requirements that are listed on some of the topics are quantitative milestones. So you have to write a process that demonstrate how you're going to approach it and demonstrate that you reach those milestones. You're going to focus on price projections and performance improvements, and make a clear differentiation as to why your innovation is better and different and is an improvement to the state of the art currently. They do require cost analysis and justification for your performance claims. And as I say, some of the topics actually do have tables that you have to follow for this. Next slide. Okay, the water technologies, they're asking us to improve performance, lower costs, support growing energy demand, and improve pump storage systems for flexibility and a reliable grid. And they're focusing on marine energy and hydropower. Next slide. And here you'll notice they have the topic numbers 56-14, water power technologies. In this case, they have 5 subtopics, A through E, and they have a generic email address, water.sbir@ee.doe.gov. And when I listened to the webinar, this was the one that caught my attention the most, because they actually require, I believe it was for subtopic E, but please read the topics listed in the solicitation. But they want you to have a partner and to specify who that partner is. And this is for commercialization purposes. So please read the solicitation in detail as to what that means and what kind of partner and how that will relate to your phase 1 approach and phase 2 commercialization strategy. Next slide. Solar energy, and here they're looking to accelerate the development and deployment of solar technology. They're looking at supporting decarbonization of the systems by 2035 and the energy system sector by 2050, and clean energy economy so that they meet the threat of the climate change. So there's a lot of mention about climate change and how your technology will fit into controlling climate change, affordability, reliability, and domestic benefit. And this one has both SBIR, STTR, and fast track applications. Fast track takes you to the phase 2, by the way. And topic 16 in particular is only STTR. Okay, so you've got to find a research institution. Next. So if we focus on topic 15, which is solar energy, this one has 6 subtopics. They're looking at wide band gap-based power electronics, photovoltaic recycling, solar systems for resilient weather-related or cyber threats, and there's all those other ones there. By the way, something I did not mention before. When you read the solicitation and the topics, they're going to tell you technologies they're not interested or innovations they're not interested. So please, before you reach out with questions to the topic authors or program managers, make sure that your innovation is not one of those that is not something they're interested in. It saves you time and saves them, and and annoying them in case you do have one that fits. So again, read your topics. And I think we have a question. So this is from Jade, where could I go to find out more information about F? Is that F on the topic 15?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so solar hardware and software technologies. Okay, 2 places. Actually, maybe 3. What I would investigate, these are EERE topics. So go and do research on the program office and look at what they have funded, what issues they're having, so that you understand as much as possible, why is this important, to see what kind of solutions they're looking for, to see if there's a fit. So that's where I would start. Second, I would read the topic in as much detail as they can possibly give you there. And then any other question you might still have, reach out with your questions to that email, solar.sbir@ee.gov.doe.gov. And I believe when you listen to the webinar, they might have mentioned more details on F. I do not remember, but typically there's someone talking about this when they do and usually tends to be the program manager that's talking about it, although they didn't list that name. So listen carefully to who is introduced and see if you can find who they are. So when you send that email to this, address it to that person just in case, or to whom it may concern, or that person, and research the background of that person and what they have funded in the past. And that will give you all as much background information as you can possibly get before you send your email with your questions. Does that help, Jade?
Yes. I was wondering, when they published the thing on December 16th, do you think that they would go more into it on that publication as well? No, it'll just be
no,
okay.
Because they're on the FOA, they're going to focus on the instructions on how on all the information about the solicitation and the requirements to submit a solicitation and all the rules about it and the components and all that. The details of the topic are going to be found on the topic description and on the webinars given and verbally, pretty much. So the solicitation, the FOA will not have more specifics on the topic. It might have information on the mission and vision of the program offices, but that is also outlined on the topic document.
Got it. Thank you.
So Brent Road, reach out to the email right away. Yeah, that's for sure. And then if for no other reasons, it can have your firm's name on top of mine. Yeah. Always go back to being really professional, very, very polite. And yes, once you have introduced yourself, if you give a good impression, yes, they will keep you on top. I used to recommend that you meet the folks then they're psychologically kind of biased with you if they like your solution. And so I used to spend part of my marketing and sales was to go to conferences, to meet the people in person. Now, I don't know for conflict of interest. I do not believe many folks like to, when the solicitations come out, meet people in person. But email is very important. Establish that good rapport. Mm-hmm.
Sonia, just another, suggestion on research would also be to look throughout the, specifically for hardware and software technologies, would be to look through the American-made Solar Prize as well, to look at what they've funded the last couple of years. They've tended to fund organizations, companies that were working on affordability, reliability,
Yes.
performance. And then also there's another FOA that has a program over the last couple of years called the Solar Manufacturing Incubator, that typically works with further advanced companies, but those are all areas that you can look at trends and what they've been supporting.
Yeah, excellent suggestion. And especially it will, they will know what they've been supporting, and you need to know what's the state of the art and what has already been funded and how you're different too. So it's part of doing your homework. Okie dokie. Next slide. And this one's STTR. And note there's only one subtopic. And that one is they're looking at transferring solar technologies from research labs to the market. And they're looking reducing manufacturing costs, improving quality control, and the great reliability, resilience, and security. Here I did talk about it, but this one, I think they had a really big list of what is non-responsive, and that's why I highlighted here. But there might be more than this topic that does that throughout the solicitation, so be aware. Next. And then with wind, here there's three themes: reduce the wind energy and all wind applications, the cost, facilitate the integration with current energy systems, and accelerate deployment. And there's no fast track for this. And this is an example of an open topic call. So you get to define your solution and what you're doing. So do take a look at it. Next. Wind energy technologies. This has quite a bit of subtopics, and they're looking land-based and offshore wind plants, wildlife tags. There's a lot of problems with wind where birds hit the turbines, or the impact of putting wind turbines on areas. And so they're looking at a lot what's going on with the wildlife and characterizing the offshores. So if you're doing wind, there's a lot of areas that you might fit in, and this is an example where you have a name of someone. And when this happens, also before you reach out, do a little bit of research. Who's been Halsey, right? What has he funded, and what areas of expertise, so that when you do talk to them, you're better informed. Next slide. Okay, here's a shameless plug for me. And the technical and business assistance. The DOE offers up to $6,500 in phase 1, or up to $50,000 for phase 2, for tasks outside of research and development. And so these are tasks that can help you commercialize your technology, like market research, or maybe you need to find out what are your gaps to commercialize. We do a lot of marketing collateral, We do a little bit of customer discovery and validation for need. So if you have a need for any of the things that are not funded under typical R&D, do reach out to me and we could see what we could include on your proposal for this. The 6,500 and the 50,000 is over and above the limits of the phase 1 and phase 2. So NSF does not offer phase 1, but in phase 2, the 50,000 are part of their phase 2. So again, when the FOA comes out, we need to find out if those are still the rules for DOE and see how TABA fits in. And then you can work with me or other TABA providers to include them to help you with your commercialization efforts. Next slide. Let's see, we've got 15 more minutes. Good. So here, these are some examples of how you go about finding topics. And we could do a little exercise if everybody is interested. And I think we have a little bit of time of how to look for topics or for who's funding in or has funded in areas for your capabilities. So putting together quotes, no quotes, synonyms for keywords to find opportunities is sometimes people are really good at doing this. And sometimes people say, like, how do you find something? It's like, I don't know, I just do. So we could go through that exercise if we have time. But there's places where you can search. I start with the SBIR.gov. That site is dedicated just for SBIR and STTR. And under the funding tab, you can navigate and you can conduct searches. Just a word of caution, SBIR.gov, sometimes it's a year or two behind on the awards. So you might not get the latest awards, but it does know who's funding for the majority of agencies. So you might be able to find topics for your area. And after you generate your searches, you can download the spreadsheets. And on your own time, you can peruse and see who could be potential competition and why. And it helps you answer the question, what's the state of the art or what has been funded in the past? And I think there was another question, Jade. Does TABA funding cover assistance with applying for an SBIR? No. But it depends on which state you are in, Jade. You can, well, yes and no. So some states have funding like the FAST grants, like Arizona has FAST grants through the Arizona Commerce Authority. And the majority of states around the country do, and it's competitive. So those funds could be used to help you for writing or editing or reviewing your applications for your SBIR or STTR proposals. But that's my no answer. My maybe or yes is as part of the commercialization TABA tasks, we can help you find opportunities or define opportunities, or maybe review your commercialization strategy of your proposal. So I have included those kind of tasks for my customers on the proposals. So in essence, we wouldn't write the proposal for you, but we could help you with the commercialization, giving you the information that would go into your commercialization strategy, for one. Number two, we could review your commercialization strategy. And number three, we could review your overall proposal. So in that sense, it's a yes or maybe. And then Manas has a hand up.
Hi, this is Manas. Hi. I have a specific questions. So my company is on energy storage, and if you look across different topics, there's energy storage at least 3 or 4 places in the topic list. So how do we decide which one to pursue? Some are very, straightforward, like wind energy office is saying energy storage in the line item. Some are saying, something to increase resiliency where energy storage can fit it, such as in the solar topic. How do we decide the topic? And like, should we reach out to everyone? Can we submit multiple LOIs and multiple submissions?
Okay, so best place to start. Well, you have a good problem, right? Because you probably fit into multiple of these topics, right? So do your homework, reach out to the email or the program manager to find out where is the best fit. And yes, you could submit multiple LOIs. And I've had customers where they submitted like a topic that was for solar panels, and they submitted one for agrivoltaics, one for parking lot, and one for floating photovoltaic panels. And the DOE gave them one. They gave them for the agricultural, but they submitted 3. It was essentially the same technology, different applications under different subtopics. But the DOE hedged their risk and gave them 1. So,
thank you.
but you might win all 3. Depends on if your technology is sufficiently different from it. Just depends what the DOE wants and your proposal.
Okay, so we can submit multiple LOIs, and if we do not hear from DOE, that means the LOI is acceptable, and so we can even submit multiple proposals.
Correct.
Thank you.
Yeah, and keep in mind that you'll probably have to disclose somewhere in the solicitation that you're submitting multiple ones and the different topics. So they probably figure it out, but just in case you still do.
Sounds good.
All right. Any other questions? Okay, so do your keyword searches on SBIR.gov. I also do Google searches. So just right there, Google search your keywords and put SBIR or the DOE or Army or Air Force and see what comes up. And then go into them, SAM.gov. The specific agency websites have a lot of these, what they funded in the past. So I like to see it. In some cases, they even give you the name of the person who's funded it. So then you could find out, because as part of your commercialization strategy, it's very important to understand potential customers. And if potential customers are other federal agencies, that's even better, right? Because then they know that their funds are going to be used across multiple organizations, and they like that specifically when it comes for the phase 3s, where there would be non-SBIR funds also coming from the federal government. Are there any places to see examples of approved SBIR? Yes. Many of the websites will give you prior award samples. They might not be something that would look like what you would write, but at least it would give you a good idea of what has been funded in the past. So you'd have to go to the agency website and see if they have templates and or examples. I know NIH and I think NSF has done it in the past. I'm not so sure if DOE has, but I'll find out. And so if you reach to me, I'll see if we have an answer for that one with the DOE. Let's see, we've got a little bit under 10 minutes. Let's see, what is the next slide? So we went through places to look, the SBIR.gov, the SBIR STTR Innovation Portal is for the DoD. The DOE has the funding opportunities side, the NSF, NIH. So those are good places to start looking for, do your searches. I heard the SBIR program underwent a review for renewal and announced that there would be changes. Do you know what these are? Yeah, so the program was just recently reauthorized at the end of September through 2025, I believe. And there are several high-level changes. Specifically, the changes have to be with relationship with foreign entities. So they are trying to make sure that you're not selling to China, for instance, or to those countries that where we don't have good relationships with or could potentially steal what you've been funded. So that's one of the major changes. The other change, as I mentioned, was they're looking at having more open topics coming so that you could commercialize and transition technology faster. And so those were the biggest high level changes that I remember, but you're going to see that there was some delay on the solicitations from the various agencies as they incorporate those changes into their FOAS. Yeah, and then you're absolutely right, Brent. They want to prevent those quote unquote SBIR mills. And so they're going to be putting in more checks to see how many phase twos you've been funded and how much money or how many of them are going to be commercialized. Right now, the DoD has something called the commercialization report and commercialization index. And for phase twos, you have to have a commercialization report pretty much for all the agencies where it shows how much money you've received, how much money you've actually commercialized, so and how many phase twos you've gotten. And so they're going to use that to determine if you're eligible to even receive a phase one or phase two. If you're a new applicant, no worries. Near peer adversaries, SBIR mills. Okay. All right. So in summary, basically, start early is my biggest message. Read your solicitation. Be prepared to spend a lot of time. Register early. All these sites take some time to answer all the questions and to fill out all the information. Make sure you have sam.gov in order and is active, because it takes probably 1 month or two right now to get a sam.gov activated and for you to be ready to submit a proposal. Send those emails, communicate with the program manager. And we're going to be discussing LOIs, writing proposal, evaluation criteria, and your legal process and data rights in the upcoming webinars. Any questions?
I have a question. About how many times would, let's say, a newer startup that's only been in business for 1 to 2 years normally have to apply to get funding? I guess, like, I've heard like 3 is the average time that they would have to reapply. Is that normal, I guess, or?
Well, not necessarily. I've seen companies who've never submitted a proposal their first time, they win. So it's just having a technology that's high risk, high innovation, and a well-written proposal with a well-defined commercialization strategy and approach. If you don't win, but you have a good proposal in place, you're going to get a really good review that you could use to improve. In the case of the DOE, the topic most likely will come out again, but it'll take you another year before you could resubmit. So you should have multiple sourcing avenues or funding avenues, I should say. So don't rely on just trying to win an SBIR. Go after multiple SBIRs, respond to multiple solicitations, take advantage of open topics. I really like the NSF because you could submit your application to NSF and DOE. You just have to disclose to the one that you submit second. So have multiple avenues for success, for funding. And sometimes it does take you 2 times. I have found that with NSF and with DOE and NIH, it'll take you a couple of times to resubmit. And if you take seriously the reviewers' comments and address them, you have a high probability of winning the second time around. I don't think you have a chance for 3 times for the same thing with some of the agencies, but it doesn't hurt to keep trying. But submit to multiple ones. DOD, the topics usually don't repeat. So DOD, you don't win. You'll probably not win the same topic again, but you will get good comments that will help you write a better proposal on the next time. And we also have office hours. So we didn't have time today, but one of my favorite parts is to actually go and do Google searches and go into some of these. So if you want to do a little bit of practice and have other questions answered, do come to our office hours. Amanda, when's the next one?
We actually have one this Friday, right around 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock, and you're welcome to join us. Sonia will be on the call, and you're welcome to come and talk more about your specific innovation and your needs. And it's a good time to kind of dive in a little deeper into your specific application. So happy to have you, and you can sign up on the same Eventbrite link. Has all of our events coming up, as well as next week we'll be having, like Sonia talked about, kind of a summary of writing your proposal, going over the evaluation criteria. And then again, at the start of the new year, we'll have the legal process and data rights, which will be a great session. We have David Metzger, who actually will be presenting on the legal process and data rights, and he worked for many years on establishing those legal processes and with the SBIR program. So that'll be a really informational session. So hopefully you can join us for all of them.
Yeah, and I think the next slide has our contact info if anybody wants it. Oh, wait, wait, we've got a little bit more.
You want me to go back?
Yeah, so here are additional resources, and we'll make the slides available to you all. So some of these we listed before, but this is where you have extra information. Then the next slide. These are the emails that were listed on the solicitation. The next slide. Amanda talked about the power connector. And then here's more information on us if you need to reach us.